The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by
one of the background dancing zombie teens that no one really pays any attention to or even cares about. That is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
So I feel like right away this week we need to almost make a retraction from last week because we announced we were going to do this movie, and we were both very this is going to be a rough one,
right? But
it'll be interesting. I fucking loved this movie.
Okay, you got me. I kind of still feel like a dirty old bastard, but it's pretty good.
So, growing up in the late 80s, early 90s and stuff, there were a lot of movies and TV shows for kids that were just straight up commercials for toys. Right. Barely a plot. It didn't matter. Let's just add some new characters every week so we can crank out some new toys. A couple, maybe 5 years ago, I tried to go back and watch some of the Ninja Turtles animated show. Oof. And it is so bad. It's unbelievable how bad it is.
Yeah. That He-Man, G.I. Joe's, that whole era of 80s action cartoons.
Yeah, and I kind of expected that this would be similar, that it would just be light on plot, just kind of dumb, and just a way to maybe reinvigorate interest in the Monster High dolls, mm-hmm. or maybe there's going to be a reissue of some or something. That's kind of what I was expecting.
Right.
But no, this has a good story. I was there's a twist that I was like, oh shit, right? I'm surprised. And it had a positive message. It was way more than I expected it to be.
When we get to that twist, I was actually not expecting that. I mean, when it happened, I was like, oh, this is what's happening now. But literally up until it was about to happen, I'm like, nah, surely not. This is going to be just bland, and they're going to find the power of friendship and believing in yourself and all that. It's like someone actually cared. So that's pretty nice for one of these properties based on toys.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So we open up, and then we're at a skate park. We have what seems to be a girl. We can't really see her to start with.
They're in a purple hoodie.
Face obscured. And they're just doing all these, skateboard tricks and, doing flips and everything.
I mean, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, they're not, but...
For a tween, they're doing some pretty decent stuff. Yeah. And people at the park are kind of watching, oh wow, look at them. They're, everybody's kind of impressed. And then they crash into someone and fall, and the hoodie's pulled back.
I do like how we get, dude, look out. Dude, look out.
Yeah. So not only is it revealed that it's a girl under the hoodie, but it's a girl that has werewolf ears.
Okay. Not only that, though, she has pierced werewolf ears.
Yeah.
So it's oh, she's kind of edgy,
Yeah.
But
the cool skater werewolf.
I'm going to say this. I don't believe for a second that anybody would actually attack this very attractive young lady, who I can only say that because I know she's 19 years old, and even then it's still kind of gross. But, nobody's going to attack her unless they're asking for her number.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of the situation is most people would just see that and be like, oh, there's a girl who's wearing, cat ears, because that's, a thing,
fangs,
It seems pretty normal, but, in this sort of universe where it's at some point monsters were... It seems like monsters were kind of revealed, and then there was a schism, and monsters went into hiding, and mm-hmm. monsters hate people, and people hate monsters. Right. Because they pretty much instantly turn into a universal horror, pitchfork and torch mob, and chase her out of the skate park, and she has to run and hide up a tree and everything.
Right. Well, also she has amazing jumping skills because she does a blurry jump across the skate park and up the tree.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got some cool werewolf powers, which will come up again a little later.
I mean, all werewolf powers are cool werewolf powers. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I do think it was fun. Like when I started this, I was like, I kind of feel bad that, we've watched like 50-something Frankenstein movies and we finally get one where like the werewolf is the main character and it's Monster High.
I know. I mean, to be fair, Larry Talbot was kind of the main character in his movies too.
That is true.
It's just he's a sad sack, and I mean, I'm Team Claudine all the way.
Yeah, I mean, Claudine's like she's a good, fun, interesting character. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I love Frankie, which we'll get to here in a moment. Yep. But yeah, so Claudine hides, and then like the people kind of like wander off. So she heads home and like jumps up through her like second-story bedroom window and comes downstairs and kind of surprises her dad, who was trying to surprise her with her 15th birthday party.
Yeah, 15 years old. You know what? He even has a very poorly decorated cake for her.
It is the most like single dad cake you've ever seen.
It's very sad. But you know what? The heart's there. That's what matters.
Yeah, it's definitely like a very sweet thought that counts kind of moment. And she's very touched. And like we never really get too much detail, but we kind of find out that like I think her mom must have died. Yeah. It seems like
Harriet Wolf, by the way.
Right.
And
it's Claudine like CLAW. Yeah. So like.
By the way, yeah. what a choice to marry a guy with the last name. Presumably guy with the last name Wolf. Maybe he took her last name. I don't know the situation.
Yeah, yeah. They seem like they're kind of living alone. She doesn't seem to have really any friends or anything.
Okay.
So.
Can we also talk about her choice of favorite like birthday food? Tofu jalapeno casserole with extra almonds. Like that's fine, but I feel like a werewolf would want more protein.
Yeah, you would think, and yeah, I mean, I guess that never really comes up again. But it would like if it's like she's a vegetarian werewolf or something, but like that doesn't really become a plot point outside of this.
Yeah, one moment.
But it's a sweet little thing. Like clearly she's kind of in hiding because she's sort of living in the human world, but not really fitting in. Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem super angsty about it, and her dad's like really obviously there for her. But then she's like, "We got to talk." And she sets her Monster High acceptance letter on the table.
Oh no, her father knew this day would come.
Yeah. And he's like, but they won't accept half human. Like, they're not going to let you in. And she's like, well, no, this is the acceptance letter. They are going to let me in.
Right. Well, I'm guessing it's pretty clear they don't know Dad's a half human. Or a full human, sorry. She's a half human. By the way, that's a weird message to start off with. A little bit of... speciesism?
Yeah, it's definitely like which is kind of what they sort of like flip a lot of the tropes of like this almost feels like a reverse Teen Wolf in a lot of ways as we go. But yeah, at this stage of the Monster High universe, the monster society is like staunchly anti-human to like a deranged degree, the same way that humans are against monsters
in most movies. Yeah,
so they kind of flip everything on its head. But yeah, it also it feels a little gross, but like it's intentionally so. Like we're supposed to feel not good about that.
And by the way, the resolution just glosses over. It's like, that's fine now, we're okay with everything. Right. We've solved the bigotry in the monster world. I guess.
Yeah, this one teenage werewolf fixed everything.
Yeah. Oh, if only.
But yeah, he's just like, I don't know. I mean, it still seems, like I don't know if it's going to be a good fit. And she's like, but Mom had such a great time. And he's still on the fence until she's like, I got chased at the park today. Right. That I don't fit in here. And then you can see like his heart breaks and he's like, oh, honey, and that's what kind of like flips him, where he's like, okay, I want you to have a safe and fulfilling and happy life. And if the place where we live now is not able to provide that for you, then go to Monster High.
Right, exactly. We're going to at least fulfill that part of your dream.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, clearly we got a really good dad here. That's really nice.
Yeah, he is a good dad.
It's this sweet moment where he's like, make a wish, and then, like, it cuts to them driving to Monster High. I think we get some, like, overhead, like, drone shots, because anything even remotely horror-adjacent needs to have those shining
references.
Scenes.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. But, yeah, of course, Claudine is also laying down in the back seat so as not to be spotted.
Yeah. So they eventually just kind of get to like, they just pull over in the middle of nowhere. There's just woods around. And she's like, I don't see a school here. What's going on? And he's like, your mom showed me this. It's like somewhere over here in these trees. but nothing's happening, and then she approaches, and suddenly this like glowing portal appears in the trees.
Right. So let's take a step back real quick. So his wife showed him this place. Why? Like, I have never had any interest in taking my significant other to my old high school.
Right.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because this was such a special place to her, because, you know, that's what Claudine said, like, this was meant a lot to her. But yeah, still.
But also, Dad would probably get lynched if he went through that portal. Being near that place is dangerous for him.
Yeah, so I guess she just like showed him the portal and then they left, which does seem like a waste of time. But
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it was a special date. We never see it. We don't know.
But she's like, "Oh, great, Dad, you found it," and he's like, "No, it found you."
Yeah.
There's obviously some like Harry Potter kind of parallels here. You know, you've got this secret school with like a different society that doesn't trust humanity, and now this is your like sort of platform 9 3/4 kind of situation. Yeah. So, you know, this is kind of where he can't go any further. So he kind of does the nervous dad thing. Like, did you pack everything? You got your toothbrush?
You were a fanger?
Yeah.
As opposed to retainer?
Yeah, I thought that was a good little gag.
Mm-hmm. And of course, her claw clippers. Why wouldn't he just call those clippers? I've only ever heard those called clippers for like humans or animals. Do they have a different name?
Yeah, I think they're just clippers.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, and you know, she kind of jokes and like, "Oh no, I forgot all my clothes," and then she's like, "I'm fine, Dad. I got everything." Yeah. So she heads through the portal, and like as she steps in, she immediately breaks into song because this is like a High School Musical kind of deal. But even like the songs, they're not bad. Like they're pretty good songs, and they kind of continue the story and the message. Like this whole first song is like all about how she's gonna get to finally like step out of the dark and be her true self. She's like, I'm not going to be anxious anymore. I'm going to like really just become who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, it's kind of like a coming of age or actually coming out song almost to a degree.
Yeah. So she steps through, gets to the other side of the portal and is like, oh no, I must be late. And then she runs into the building. And then the song kind of continues with like all the other cast members kind of singing their verse of like, so you meet Draculora, who she's kind of got a lot of family pressure because her family's like a long legacy at the school.
Well, they're Draculas. You know, literally Draculas.
Yeah, and so not only does, you know, like my father and my father before him and everything, but they're all still alive because they're immortal. So she's got a lot of great-great-grandparents who are, you know, putting pressure on her to be the perfect student.
That would suck. Literally having generations of family pressure you. Ugh.
Yeah, one generation is bad enough. But, you know, so her verse is all about how she wants to get out from under her family shadow and be herself and everything. Then we get Frankie, who comes in.
Doesn't she kind of introduce herself a little bit in Yiddish?
Like, there's this bit where, like, meeting different students, at this point, we don't know this, but they'll eventually say that their pronouns are they, them.
Right, but it's not the singular they, them. It's the plural they, them.
Right. It's a perfect use of that because, like, literally an amalgamation of people. But yeah, it's almost like they use a couple different languages. I think it's because of this amalgamation thing. I think there's like, I don't know if there is Yiddish in there, but I want to say there's like some Asian language and maybe like German or something. Okay. At this point, pretty much you just hear like, I'm Frankie, I'm 15 days old. Right. And then Frankie's verse is pretty similar to Claudine's, but the main difference is, I think Claudine says something about, could they be monsters? Could they be family? And Frankie says, I see the monsters, they look like family. So, like, you know, this is, Frankie is our quintessential Frankenstein character. The whole plot of this movie is looking for friends or family, just trying to make connections and kind of failing, but, like, slowly figuring it out as the movie goes.
And, of course, then we get a couple interesting characters. We get Cleo and Laguna.
Yeah, so this is our, like, Mummy and Creature from the Black Lagoon type characters.
And Cleo,
and they're also kind of the antagonists of the movie for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, like deuteragonists, maybe. Ultimately,
yeah, they're like the bullies, but they're not.
They're not really.
They're not
bullies. They're just kind of mean girls.
Yeah, exactly. So Cleo comes like carried in like on a litter by mummies, and then like Laguna, she mostly looks like she has like maybe some gills on her neck and then like kind of pointy ears or something. Like she's not like fully like a gill man creature, but you know, they're kind of talking. They talk about that, like Cleo and her boyfriend Deuce, the Gorgon,
just broke up.
recently broke up.
Yeah.
Laguna's like, "You want me to kill him?"
Right. That she actually does like a full snarl, and like the fangs come out. And it's like, oh, she might actually do this.
Yeah. And Cleo's like, "Nah, I'm totally over it. I don't have any feelings for him anymore. It doesn't matter at all." But you definitely get the vibe that like she's not over it.
Well, we don't have time to worry about that because we're then introduced to Heath. What is Heath? I know that he's on fire and he has yellow eyes. He likes to make mischief. So I'm like, is he part demon? What is the deal with Heath?
I don't know if it's like a fire demon or like an imp of some kind.
Feels like that's what they're going with, but he's just like a dude with orange skin and reddish yellow hair that catches on fire. Yeah. Okay.
And, you know, obviously his name is like Heat, but with an H added to the end. And Deuce is like Medusa is where that took me a minute to catch. And I was like, oh, gotcha. Okay.
Right.
For most of the movie, Deuce is wearing like a beanie, so you don't really see, but like occasionally he'll take it off and then you see that he's got like the snakes for hair.
But then we're immediately introduced to a girl in like white fur known as Abby Abominable. Right. I wonder, what does she do? Yeah, she's our Abominable Snow girl.
Abby is like checking in. There's like a Cyclops boy next to her.
Do we get anything about the Cyclops boy? It's just Cyclops boy.
Yeah, I don't even think we see him again. He might be in the background occasionally, but like this is really the only time he's like in the foreground at all. Then we meet the headmistress. Who is like I guess like a headless horseman is like, it took me a while to realize that's like the head, like she's got like stitches around her, or like a scar around her neck where she's been decapitated.
Well, she also has a riding crop, so there's like a double entendre there. I think that was for the adults. Right. But yeah, like a Dullahan maybe? But I don't know. Yeah. That might be a little bit of a reach for that.
And then like, so the headmistress is talking to a teacher that will... we don't get his name now, but like we'll later find out that it is
Komos.
And he's just like also kind of demonic looking. He's just basically got horns. That's pretty much his whole deal.
He's just a normal nerdy guy with horns.
Yeah, he's even like, you know, he's got like a plaid sweater vest, and like he's just a very nerdy looking dude. Yeah. They're kind of talking about getting ready for the new year. The headmistress is kind of skeptical that Deuce is like, he claims he's trying to like turn over a new leaf and be a good student, and she's like, I don't know, Gorgons that you can't trust.
Wow, damn,
which is weird. Yeah, like even in the monster world, Gorgons. They not only do they hate humans, but they have certain monsters that are lower tier monsters.
This is just bigotry's rampant here in the monster world.
Yeah, it really is.
By the way, Deuce has internalized this shit because he's kind of like, yeah, I don't want to be like my family. What did they do? We never hear, like, you know, he wants to be different. From what? We've only ever seen you this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like, maybe if we'd watched all of
maybe
the other Monster High animated movies, we'd know some.
But but I'm not doing that.
No, I think this is probably a pretty unique scenario. I bet the other things are more what we were afraid this was going to be.
Yeah.
And then we get a great little bit where like the teacher's like, I'm just excited to be here again and to change lives. And then a zombie girl walks by and is like, hey, and he's like, and undeaths.
Right. I mean, come on, be inclusive here. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you know, there's different levels of inclusivity that you need when you're in the monster world, so that makes sense. And then like the headmistress is like, all right, well, I'll let you get back to it. I'm gonna go suck up to a rich alumni.
Right. Which that's a funny thing in of itself.
Yeah, I mean that's like the reality of the situation with schooling is like you gotta do this kind of stuff to get the money to keep going. So of course, you know, the main rich alumni is Dracula. Dracula, and he's like, I heard that there are rumors of witchcraft on campus. And she's like, no, surely not. And he's like, well, you better crack down on that. That's a disgusting human practice, and we don't want that here.
More bigotry. How dare you, sir? Come on.
Because, like, when he was, like, opposed to witchcraft, I was like, but that's a spooky thing. Why are we opposed to it? And then they're like, oh, okay. So witchcraft is, like, that's the way that humans can kind of almost get into, like, a monstrous territory. And we don't want that. Right. We don't want humans to blur that line. So, of course, they're going to be very opposed to this practice.
Listen, sir, I have a bone to pick with you about hags and which is proper, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have some bad news for you here shortly as well.
Yep. Oh, it gets worse, doesn't it?
Yeah. So then we see Claudine like walking around the halls of the school. She bumps into a girl and is like, how do I find my room? I don't really know. The girl kind of like, she's like, the school is alive. Your room will find you. And she starts like this evil laugh.
Yeah. Okay, I thought she was going to be a hag. Not going to lie. And it turns out her name's Ghoulia.
So yeah, you know what she is just based on
Right, she's a ghoul.
And like she was trying to kind of like not exactly haze, but like lightly scare Claudine, and it doesn't really work. And Claudine's like, "Sorry, you got some dirt in your teeth. Oh. It didn't really." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So, but she's like, "No, but for real, the school is alive. Just ask the school; it'll tell you where your room is."
Well, and sure enough, she's like, "Hey, school, where's my room?" And the wall opens up, revealing another hallway.
Yeah, and so then she goes down that hall, finds a room with her name on it, goes inside, and is immediately greeted by her roommate. Hi, my name's Frankie. My pronouns are they, them. She's like, and Frankie is very clearly like the neurodivergent character in this. And it's not specific what the neurodivergence is, but I mean, I definitely felt some kinship here.
Yeah.
Because right away, Frankie's like just talking too much about things that Frankie shouldn't like. So my full name is Frankie Stein. I was created 15 days ago in a lab by my parents, but not in the usual way like your parents probably made you. I was made of dead body parts for historical figures. They start talking about like facts about werewolves, where the name comes from. Did you know, and Claudine's like, whoa.
Calm down.
That's all very interesting, but like, take a breath. Hold on.
Yeah. Not going to lie. That one hit pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah, like I was immediately just like, I feel this character so much. Yeah. I love Frankie. This is a Frankie Stan account for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it turns out that the school literally has made like little biomes for each of the people in the rooms, and Claudine has another roommate who happens to be Draculaura.
Yeah, and it's so good because Claudine's like, so is it just the two of us? And Frankie's like, no, I think we might have, because there's this thing. And then, like, this whole conversation, we haven't seen this one corner of the room where there's just a coffin standing vertically in the corner.
Which slides right open. And Draculaura's like, listen, I don't want any of you talking to me. I don't even want to hear anything about you.
Yeah, she's like, those, like, monsters that, like, came here looking for a sense of community and trying to, like
both of you,
connect with people. That's not me. I don't want that shit. Right. She's like, this half the room is mine. You all can stay over there.
Right. I like how she claims the entire half the room. And she's like, you two can have that half, whatever you need to do.
And while she's going on about this, Frankie just goes and gets in the coffin. Like, is this basically like a room or is it just a bed? Like, how do we think of this box? Right. And Dracula's like, get the fuck out of my coffin. That's mine.
Exactly. But then it's bedtime, and Frankie, of course, has to get a charge, apparently. He's using like an old 1950s like hair dryer machine that you sit in.
Yeah, like it's pulls the little thing down over their head and there's just like sparks going out and everything. Oh, and somewhere in there like Dracula like threatens to drain their blood if they don't listen.
Oh, right. And Frankie's like,
I'm not even sure if I have blood. So then we got like the next morning and like Claudine and Frankie are excited to start school. But they're all kind of nervous. Frankie's like, I've never, all of my parts, they taught themselves or kind of existed before school was a thing. How do you walk? Am I walking right? And they're kind of doing this really, like sort of a Frankenstein stomp walk, Mm-hmm. It's one of those like sitcom gags where it's like as soon as you think about how you're supposed to walk, you suddenly can't.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's cute.
And by the way, Claudine gets way too excited about a vending machine. Like, she's like, oh, they have vending machines. Cool. They have them everywhere.
Yeah, my regular human high school had vending machines.
But, by the way, did you catch that the Stein family apparently runs a root beer company?
Yeah, Stein root beer. It's electric. So there's a soda vending machine from Stein, and then there's like a snack machine that's just full of
Can we talk about the Ghostitos? First off, that's amazing. I wish they actually had a brand deal. And then we've got Sour Gnomes, which I'm guessing are like Sour Patch Kids. Jellied Newt eyeballs, which are basically literally in a Whoppers box.
Right.
Full Moon Pies, which that looked like a candy bar, but whatever. Still, I like the Full Moon Pies. And we have Sour Booze. Don't know what that is. Sounds interesting. And then Choco Claws. Which, okay, I'm in for that.
So they're like really impressed with it, and then Dracula just walks by and is like, "Look alive!" And she just like elbows the machine, and some newt eyes fall out for her, and she just, without paying, just takes them and walks off.
I would say that was insulting to say "look alive."
Right.
But maybe that's what she meant to, because she did like the cool Fonzie, like just bang on the glass and falls down.
And then we get a little aside where Cleo goes to talk to Deuce and is just like, "I'm totally over you."
Right? Which is something you would say, you know?
Yeah. And Deuce is trying to be cool about it and is just talking, trying to be nice and everything. But by the end of it, he's like, "Okay, it's good to see you're still the same self-absorbed monster that I broke up with." Mm-hmm. So... he kind of moves on.
Oh, by the way, earlier, whenever she's talking to Laguna, Laguna calls her spooktastic, but my Latino mind was like, she called her putastic. I'm like, okay, that was some Spanglish, but I like it.
And so then Claudine and Frankie go try to introduce themselves to Cleo and Laguna, mm-hmm. and Cleo is the mean girl, so she calls Frankie a walking jigsaw puzzle.
Rude.
And Frankie just goes right over their head. They're like, "Hi, I'm Frankie. I'm made from a collection of dead people's body parts." And Cleo's like, "Yeah, I can tell from your hair, because I'm sure no one would want to be caught dead with that."
Right, but you know what? Most protagonists would just take this. No, not Claudine. She's like, "No, don't you talk to my friend that way. You're just a jerk."
Yeah, it's really nice that Claudine is right away like, her and Frankie are friends, mm-hmm. and they're going to defend each other.
Claudine ain't putting up with no bullshit.
Yeah. And Cleo kind of claps back and is like, "Oh, what a cute little doggy." And then Claudine growls at her and they run away.
Right.
So yeah, Claudine is not going to deal with that at all, which is very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And apparently at this point, Deuce saw some of that and he's like, "Hey, I dig it."
So he strolls over, and is, kind of flirts a little bit. He's definitely impressed that they're standing up to the mean girl, especially. And he's like, I know her deal. I dated her.
She has mummy issues.
Yeah, she was wrapped up too long, and that's bad for the heart. Mm-hmm. And Frankie's like. So earlier, in the early scene, Frankie's like, "I'm 15 days old." Now Frankie's 16 days old because a day's gone by. And they're like, "My heart came from a fisherman named Earl."
Right. The collection of body parts is just interesting.
And for the most part, it seems like all of Frankie's parts, we get mention of some of the brain parts, mm-hmm. and stuff, and it's mostly important historical figures. But apparently the heart, they were just like, "Oh, any old heart from this random fisherman named Earl will do."
Maybe Earl had the most love to give. I don't know.
So then Deuce kind of tells him he's a good Gorgon. He doesn't, he's not going to bite, let his snakes bite people. He's not going to turn people to stone. That's why he wears his glasses. Yeah. Which is also just kind of it's like, do regular Gorgons in this world do that? Do they just kill people? I feel like most of these monsters don't do that. But maybe, what do I know? Yeah, it seems for the most part the monsters are, friendly to other monsters. When we had the teacher and the headmistress earlier, the teacher did say something about, I can't remember, his aunt or something was turned to stone by a Gorgon. That's right. He was like, I think it was his uncle, and then he was like, my aunt had to just drag him out and put him in the garden or something. I think that'll come up. I don't think we got there yet. Oh, for some reason I was thinking it was when they were talking about Deuce earlier, but maybe. Yeah, either way, apparently there is a precedent for this, but yeah, obviously Deuce is not doing that whole thing. He's basically he's got tinted sunglasses that I guess are kind of like Cyclops glasses from X-Men, That's kind of what I was thinking too. But hey, it turns out Claudine Wolfe, come see the headmistress. Head to the headmistress office. No! So getting basically called to the principal's office right away. That's pretty intimidating. Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, not only that, but in the principal's office, there is a weird, creepy fucking eye. Now, we saw this eye on the front of the school. Apparently, it looks inward as well as outward. Right. And it's like a giant clock that is the eye. And then she also has a smaller cuckoo clock that when it pops open, there's a skeleton that sticks out. So she's just got two different creepy clocks. But yeah, the eye definitely seems sentient. It looks around and later will be kind of spying on things. Mm-hmm. Obviously Claudine is very intimidated by this giant clock and kind of just starts talking to it's one of those I got to fill the silence because I'm nervous. Right. So she's like, she sees that the headmistress has a coffee mug that says, I hate Mondays.
Which, that's kind of a Garfield reference, but I don't know why.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hate Mondays too. It's so early in the week. The headmistress will mention like, oh, this mug is made out of pure ogre bone. It was given to me by Joan of Arc after her death, right. Which coincidentally was on a Monday.
It's like, did she turn into a ghost, or like, do we get a charred zombie thing? What did Joan of Arc turn into?
Yeah, I don't know. So it turns out Claudine's not in trouble. The headmistress was very fond of her mother and wants to invite Claudine to speak at this important like alumni dinner thing that happens every year. There's supposed to be a student ambassador every time, and they've chosen, since a lot of these alumni knew Claudine's mom, it seems like it'd be like a good fit for her to do this.
Well, apparently that much responsibility is enough to scare Claudine, because immediately her long claws retract into just regular human hands.
Yeah, and this is, I mentioned Teen Wolf earlier. Like this, there's so many of these like stories of like a human kid who like gets some kind of curse and turns into a monster, or not even kid necessarily. I mean, even like like a Wolfman story. Mm-hmm. There are those moments where like, oh shit, my monstrous side is starting to appear, and I need to like cover my, put my hand behind my back or do something to like hide and get away so that people don't see I'm a monster.
Right. In this case,
and here it's the reverse. Yeah. Like she like sits on her hand so that the headmistress doesn't see that it has turned human.
Mm-hmm. Because obviously that's a scary thing. You don't want to be a human in a monster school.
Specifically in this monster school that hates humans. They even like have a conversation here because like the headmistress is like, actually, I don't know much about the rest of your family. What's your dad's deal?
Do you have a dad? Is their next question. Which is like, well, that's a valid question in this society, I think.
Yeah, and Claudine immediately just like spirals into like the worst kind of lies.
Werewolf.
Like she could have just stuck mostly to the truth and just been like, yeah, he's a werewolf. But suddenly, yeah, her dad's name is Pierre. He's French. He howls with a French accent.
Right.
And like, yeah, the headmistress is like, oh, I can't wait to meet him. Mm-hmm. So she kind of like rushes out nervously, like, afraid that she's going to continue to turn human.
Right.
And ends up like bursting in on Draculaura in the bathroom.
Wait,
and there's like
she's over a pot. That looks like a cauldron to me.
Yeah, there's like green smoke coming out of the toilet, and she's like, excuse me, bathroom. And like Claudine like, stumbles out. Oh, I'm so sorry. And there's because like the inclusivity of this movie is off the charts. So there's like a sign on the door that just says all monster lavatory. Right. So no gender on the bathroom, any monster, any gender, whoever, but obviously, don't come in when Draculaura is using it. Clearly she should have locked the door, but whatever.
Yeah, that's just rude on her part.
But so then eventually Draculaura comes out, and Claudine goes in, looks in the mirror, and kind of starts getting scared. Like you get like the "what's happening to me" moment.
Mm-hmm. Then we cut to the outside where Professor Komos is walking with a bunch of kids, explaining his past a little bit. He's like, "Yeah, I used to work on Mall Street before I became a teacher." So this guy was a freaking banker, or not a banker,
a day trader or something.
Yeah, day trader. Yeah, exactly. This guy's a scumbag. No, he actually seems like a pretty nice guy.
Yeah, so, and then we see, like, above, like, as they all pass, on the wall, just these, like, drippy letters appear that say, expel the enemy.
Right. Uh-oh. It knows Claudine's there.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Claudine steps outside, bumps into Frankie. Frankie's got a plan, not having any friends, being only 16 days old.
Well, then we also got Heath and Abby playing football with a foot.
Right, yeah, and Abby's like, so when do we eat the foot? And he's like, yeah, well, you gotta wait till the game's over, then you can eat the foot. And as they're walking by, like, Frankie looks down and is like, oh good, that's not my foot.
Yep, that's a good joke.
Yeah, but so yeah, Frankie has gotten a cell phone because that's how teens socialize, so they're like, okay, I signed up to all these social networking apps. I'm gonna try to like meet people. I'm gonna build a healthy social network. That's how you make connections nowadays.
Right.
And Claudine's like, okay, Claudine is definitely here to try to make friends as well. Like, that's kind of why she decided to go here to meet monsters.
Right.
But she's definitely less stressed about it. I think once Claudine got to Monster High, she was like, okay, here are people who are like me. I don't need to worry now. The friendships will come naturally.
Right.
But Frankie's too young, and Frankie's just like desperate to make those connections right away.
Right. Well, as Frankie's even walking away, Claudine's like, "Hey, by the way, have you ever heard of anything about, maybe monsters turning into human form?" And this is a pretty good gag. Frankie's like, "Nope, never heard of it." And then ding! Oh, I know all about it.
Yeah, there's like a little bit of like sparks go around her head, like little bits of lightning. So basically, they tell her like, this only happens to stressed out, half human, half monster hybrids. Yeah. It's kind of a fight or flight response thing. And, Claudine's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, but obviously is not revealing her secret at this point. And then Frankie sees a group of kids standing around, like, playing on their phones.
Right.
Frankie walks up and is like, hi, I'm Frankie.
I also have a
phone. And all the kids just ignore them because they're, on their phones.
First off, I don't appreciate this whole statement. I feel like someone would at least acknowledge and be like, what's up?
Yeah. But Claudine's like, I think they communicate through the phones. Yeah. If you want to talk to these people, you got to use the phone. And Frankie's like, you're a genius, just like me.
Right. I love Frankie.
Yeah. So then we cut away to history class.
Yeah, Professor Comos is the teacher.
Yeah, and he's all like, we're going to start out with the history of Monster High. Starts asking questions, and Frankie knows all the answers.
Right. And keeps throwing their hand up so violently that on the third question just chucks off their hand. He's like, all right, you need to calm down.
Yeah, he's like, somebody give Frankie a hand. Hey. This kind of becomes like, more humans are the enemy.
The school only accepts those of true monster heart.
Right. And so the professor ends up like breaking into a song, and like Dracula's like, please, he's not going to sing, is he? He's not going to sing. And
he does.
Yep, he gets out his acoustic guitar like a cool teacher and starts singing a song about this half human, half monster.
Oh, yeah, and how awful people are.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, humans are the worst and monsters are the best.
Yeah, but what monster is he singing about?
Mr. Hyde.
Right. Makes sense. Dr. Jekyll and Jekyll, I'm sure, and Mr. Hyde. Edward Hyde.
Yeah, and so, which is a perfect... that's a nice pull for this story where we're like dealing with Claudine's like half human, half monster. So obviously Mr. Hyde, and the problem with being half human and half monster is you don't fit in anywhere because the humans hate your monster side, the monsters hate your human side, and so it's like Hyde gets put on trial for hiding his human side from the monsters.
Which that's rude.
Yeah, so like I guess it's like the trial is more for lying than for being half human. I don't know, but
still
either way,
seems sketchy to me.
Yeah, and they end up deciding like the monsters just expel him,
right? Where the humans kill him.
Yeah, then the humans kill him because he's a monster. So, obviously that doesn't work out. So, like, then this is kind of a thing with, like, sitcoms about school is, like, you get, like, a 10-minute class and then, like, the bell rings and everybody leaves. Right. So, as soon as the song's over, it's time for everybody to leave. As everybody's heading out, Professor Comos, talks to Frankie for a second.
Well, he's also giving everyone high fives.
Yeah. And so he's like, high five, Frankie. And Frankie's like, "What? I don't know this." And so he like tries to demonstrate by high-fiving himself.
Right.
So he's like, "You put your hand up and then you do this." And so Frankie puts two hands together,
just rubs them
and rubs them
vigorously.
Yeah, and it's like, "All right, high five." And
you know what? I appreciate that high five.
Yeah, and the professor's like, "We'll work on that later. Good class. See you later." And Frankie's just smiling. Frankie's feeling really good about that interaction. And then Claudine stops and is like, so can you tell me more about Hyde? Like, I think I want to do my report, because he does mention that there's going to be like a big report in a couple weeks. Claudine's like, yeah, I think I want to do my report on Hyde. This sounds really fascinating. And he's like, those are the words teachers die to hear. So he kind of gives her some directions. Like, if you go to the library, I think Hyde's diaries are still there.
Yeah, we know there's a secret lab on the ground somewhere, but no one can ever find it.
Nobody's been able to find it. Yeah. He even goes so far as to say, like, we think he actually found a cure where he could have been fully monster, but he was expelled before he could take it. So who knows? Maybe that's just still sitting around in his lab.
Right. That's really convenient. It's like they read the script.
Yeah. That problem that you have that you haven't told anybody about, here's
the resolution.
Here's the solution. Yeah. So then she heads to the library to find those notes, and she does, but like they're all in like this crazy scribble, like it's like gibberish.
Yeah, I mean, no one could read that clearly. It's just like symbols. But as she's reading it, she hears some ghostly whispers, and then all of a sudden the lights flicker out.
And so that fight or flight thing kicks in again, and Claudine turns fully human. So now her claws are gone, her ears go away, her human ears grow in, and her like cool punk purple hair just turns into regular people.
Brown hair.
Just brown hair. So she stands up to try to see what's going on and just happens to bump into Frankie.
Right. They both scream and
they kind of scare each other. I think, Frankie just kind of startles her and, but Frankie's like, wait, there's a human in here, and kind of gets startled as well. But then it just pretty much cuts to like a little bit later. They're sitting together, and Frankie's cool with it, or like they're kind of like comforting Claudine, like it's Claudine's back to monster appearance, and Frankie's like, I want to help, whatever we can do to figure this out for you. I'm here for.
But this sure is a pickle, and literally right beside them is a jar of pickles. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So then Claudine shows Frankie the journals, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can read this. One of my
frontal cortex was belonged to Alan Turing, or it might be."
Oh yeah, that's it. He, Alan Turing broke the codes during the war, so I've got that talent.
Right. He was awesome for saving the world. And it's like, wait, so Frankie does like humans, or do monsters acknowledge that humans do good things? What's going on here? Is what my question.
Well, man, it is Frankie. Like, it's never really talked about, but, like, I mean, Frankie is a monster, but they're made out of humans. So, like, I guess Frankie is the right monster here to kind of have some association with humankind to, make that connection with Claudine. Right. So, yeah, they go through the journal, and they're like, okay, yeah, so this is saying that there is a secret lab. Here's the coordinates.
It's in the campus graveyard.
Yeah, so we can go look at that later tonight. We'll have to sneak out, but we can do that. And Claudine's like, wow, you're amazing. That's so great. High five.
Right.
And Frankie rubs their hands together.
Love it. So good.
And, like, the look on their face, like, it's just so gleeful. Like, Frankie is just the best.
Yeah. Frankie is.
Yeah, like there were so many times where like I just had to pause and just like be happy about what Frankie just did for a few minutes before I could press play and keep going.
Like the I'm assuming actress who's playing them, like they absolutely just smiling ear to ear throughout this whole thing, and it is infectious, and I love it.
Let's see. I actually did not look up. Let's see. Oh, actually, so the actor playing Frankie is named Cece Balagot, and apparently they go by he, they pronouns.
Well, I got that all wrong. I apologize.
Done some like Disney and Nickelodeon type stuff. Apparently it was on Girl Meets World, the Boy Meets World reboot spinoff kind of thing.
Okay. Well, what?
So that's kind of cool. We have like a character who's sort of non-binary being played by a trans non-binary actor. So that's that's pretty cool that they're taking that extra step here. Yeah,
but Frankie's just their joy is infectious.
Absolutely.
Apparently, we finally discovered the blood writing that appeared after Como's passed and Claudine's thing went down, and we have Grigor cleaning it off.
Right. Yeah, Grigor. So it's like Igor, but just like Gregor, Igor combined. He's working on like scrubbing off the words, and they're not really coming off very well. And we just have the headmistress and Komos just like standing there watching him work and discussing it. They're kind of like, I can't believe the kids are already vandalizing the school after like the first day. And the headmistress is like, I hope it's not something worse than vandalism I can deal with, but I'm afraid this might be something else.
Wonder what that could be.
So then we cut to like, it's, kind of bedtime. Everybody's kind of getting ready for bed. Claudine is sitting on the stairs, FaceTiming with her dad. And he's like, so I got an invitation in the mail for Parents' Day.
For Pierre Wolf?
And she's like, oh, yeah. Which, in some things, like, I feel like this would be this whole thing where, like, the dad would feel very hurt and, like, you're abandoning me, you're ashamed of me and stuff. But he's like, no, that's kind of, I feel kind of cool. Like, I feel like I'm, like, dangerous and mysterious. I've never felt that way before.
He's just a normal, like, milquetoast dad. It's just like, yeah, it's nice to feel dangerous once in a while, I guess.
Yeah, like he's just a really good dad. Like he's understanding that his daughter's dealing with a lot right now, and that like he doesn't need to make it about him, and that she'll find her way in time and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And, she kind of tells him about the alumni dinner and that she's made a friend, and he's very happy for her about both and everything. And then she's like, well, I better go. It's about bedtime. Somebody comes down. I think it's Gulia, maybe. Somebody goes down the stairs, and she kind of has to, like, hold her phone, because she's FaceTiming and doesn't want them to see that her dad is a normal guy. And then we've got Claudine and Frankie kind of getting ready to, like, you know, go on this little secret mission to find the secret lab. Frankie's very excited because they found out that their cell phone has all kinds of cool tools. There's a flashlight, there's a compass. This is going to be great. Like, everything we need for the mission is right here in this phone.
Right, absolutely. But then that's when we get the reintroduction of Cleo, who wants to follow Frankie so they can be beasties.
Yeah. Because Frankie's like, I don't have any followers yet, and then you hear like a little like alert sound. Yeah, it's clear that Cleo's like, I'm gonna follow you just so that I can make fun of you on social media
and harass you.
Cyberbully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they go to head out and bump into Deuce, and Deuce is like, hey, I heard you're gonna be doing the alumni dinner. I've helped out there in the past, so I've heard a lot of these speeches. If you want to hang out, maybe I can, walk you through it, and we can write the speech together.
Right.
And Claudine is like, okay, bye, and she just like runs away.
Yep.
And Deuce is kind of like, what? That's strange. And Claudine's telling Frankie, like, so that, you know, that fight or flight thing we were talking about? Like, he triggered that hard. And she's like, oh, you have a crush on him.
Right.
That makes sense.
I know this because my spleen belonged to William Shakespeare.
Right.
Which I didn't know the spleen had that kind of effect on your romantic life, but okay.
Yeah. And Cleo happens to overhear them talking about this, so she kind of follows them to their room. So, like, you have, like, Claudine and Frankie talking about these feelings, and Claudine kind of, like, half-heartedly resisting, like, no, I don't really have feelings for him, but you can tell she does. Yeah. And Draculaura's like, I don't care about this, shut up, I don't want to be in this conversation, please go away. And then Cleo comes in and escalates the conversation, and Draculaura's like, this is not what I want. I do not want guests coming in the room and continuing conversations. Mm-hmm. And she's very annoyed. Cleo is like, well, I just want to give you some friendly advice, and, he's too good for you and all this. Boo. He's out of your league. Yeah, she's the worst. And, even though Draculaura doesn't really seem to like her roommates.
She ain't gonna deal with that shit.
Yeah, she likes Cleo even less. So she does a little quiet spell, and suddenly...
she gives her a pimple.
Yeah. And is like, hey, Cleo, you might want to check the mirror. It looks like you got a little something there. And, Cleo, because she's like a 15-year-old girl, a pimple is like, catastrophic. And she's like, I'm supposed to have perfect skin. What? And she like runs out in a huff, is all upset.
Yeah.
So at that point, then we get like a curfew announcement overhead that's like, if you're a nocturnal eater, please head to the cafeteria.
Right. All students go to your rooms and lock yourselves in for curfew. Nocturnal feeders, please get in the classroom. Also, remember, we don't like people feeding in the halls. so it's like, right. There has been murders here.
Yeah. Yeah. So since it's curfew, it's time for Frankie and Claudine to sneak out. They head to the cemetery, which happens to be locked, but this is where we learn more about werewolf powers. Claudine easily jumps this fence like it's nothing.
She has jumps for real.
Yeah. And Frankie's impressed, and Claudine's like, yeah, what can I say? It's good to be a werewolf sometimes. And right. Frankie's like, what else you got?
She has super hearing, of course, makes sense. Super night vision. Okay, first off, night vision is a power. You don't need to have super night vision. You're just doing too much. Excuse you.
And then she's like, also super smell, which isn't great sometimes.
No doubt.
But so they're kind of like making their way through the cemetery. They accidentally wake up Ghoulia, who, being a ghoul, sleeps in a grave instead of in the school. Yeah,
and we come upon the gravestone of one Phil Hermiton, who was Frankie's uncle, and apparently he has his thigh.
Yeah, but they're also afraid that maybe they have his social skills as well. This is, it's been pretty clear what Frankie's deal is up to this point, but here they really kind of spell it out, and, Frankie's like, I'm scared that, my brain is different, and I'm afraid that, it's going to make it hard for me to make friends. I don't think... My brain's too scattered. It works differently, and sometimes it feels like there's a book that everybody else has read about how to interact with other people, and I never got that book.
Right. That kind of hits, doesn't it?
Yeah, that really, I felt that for sure. Mm-hmm. But then, Claudine is really great. She's like, I like you. I like your brain. I like the way your brain works. I like all of your parts.
Yeah.
No matter who else you meet or make friends with, I'm your friend. You have one true friend. And, whatever you do on social media, that doesn't really matter, but, we're friends.
Exactly. Which is touching. That's nice.
Yeah, Frankie's like, I think my parts really needed to hear that.
Which, I don't know if you ever want to hear a friend say that.
Yeah. So they like find the crypt.
Yeah, like mausoleum crypt.
And it just seems to be completely sealed up. They don't really see any way in.
Yeah, we got no knobs, we got no handles, we got no keyholes, just the crypt.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, well, I guess that's a dead end for now. We'll have to keep digging, figure something out.
Wait, what's Laura doing over there in the graveyard?
Yeah, so Draculaura is like basically doing witchcraft. She's got a big cauldron going.
She was the witch.
Yeah. So she's like floating a little bit, and then, so we find out that's what she was doing in the bathroom earlier as well, was practicing witchcraft.
So she's making something called a power potion, and it just makes her float?
Yeah, that seems like a very vague name for a very specific potion.
Right, and only when she smells the potion.
Yeah.
There's drug implications here. Whether intentional or unintentional.
I did not make that connection, but yeah, that definitely seems like a good metaphor there, especially the way she has to hide it and do it in secret and everything. But this is kind of like the thing to bond this trio. Now Frankie and Claudine know one of Draculaura's secrets, and Claudine is quick to be like, okay, so here's my secret. Yeah. And Draculaura's like, oh shit,
right.
I thought mine was bad, yours is way worse.
Well, Draculaura's, vampires and witches have apparently been at war for centuries. Draculaura's now bridging the gap between the worlds. But like you said, Claudine's is, hey, I was born to a human, which that also sounds like a little weird that's more dramatic than, hey, I'm effectively bridging like two warring factions.
Yeah.
Their priorities are a little skewed here.
Yeah, for real. Mm-hmm. They show Draculaura the crypt, and she's like, oh, well, there's a spell, I've never tried it before, but it's like an opening spell. It's called something release, like it has a weird name.
Yeah, it's open lock from D&D.
Yeah, pretty much. And she's like, there's a lot of ingredients. It'll take a little bit, but like, if you guys help, maybe we can do that sometime. And they're like, yeah, we're down. We'll help with whatever. And so then we get another musical number where they kind of like help her do her power spell to float.
Right. But also don't we see that there's like a handprint in the crypt at this point? They're like, I wonder what this thing's here for. And they try it with their hands and obviously it doesn't work.
Yeah, Claudine puts her hand there and nothing happens. So yeah, they like bond with this sort of
song about how great it is to have friends.
Yeah, this is definitely the power of friendship thing, but it also it acts as the spell too. Like it's a lot about like if people try to mess with the three of us, nobody can stop us as a team.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's again a nice positive message.
Yep. But as they walk away, we get a ominous shadow. And some ominous music to go with it.
Yeah, so something else is aware of this crypt and is trying to get in there. And yeah, we just see the shadow kind of like fall over it, but we don't see what caused that shadow, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Then we get a notification about the casket ball tournament being moved.
Yeah, there's a lot of good just like background like announcements and signs and stuff that just have a lot of good gags. Oh, yeah. The trio is like having breakfast. They're kind of discussing the spell. There's, a list of ingredients. Some of them are going to be easier to find than others.
Yeah. We have to find ogre bone.
Yeah, ogre bone. I don't know where we're going to find ogre bone. And Claudine's like, I actually have a line on where we can get some ogre bone.
Just happens to be in the headmistress's office.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky, but if we can figure out a way to get in there, we could probably scrape something off. And Frankie's like, oh, well, I know that exactly at 9:17 every morning, the headmistress goes to the bathroom.
Frankie, you're doing too much. You're doing entirely too much that there's the bathroom schedule.
And yeah, Claudine and Dracula are both like, wait, what? And Frankie's like, sorry, like it's not like I've been spying on her, but everything that I ever see, I memorize. Every action you've ever done
right, I know.
Is permanently, etched into my brain. For instance, I know that you moisten your lips every 32 or 34 seconds.
Right. And by the way, that's great because like I didn't time it out, but every once in a while she'd be like, you did it again.
Yeah.
34 seconds.
But so the plan is while the headmistress is in the bathroom, they're going to sneak into her office. Pretty much right from there, we get to them trying the plan. Claudine is going to sneak in while Frankie and Draculaura kind of stand guard.
Yeah, run interference if they can.
Yeah, but it turns out that it ends up being a slower process than they had hoped because Claudine has to hide from the giant eyeball that's watching her, so it kind of slows her down, and then, the headmistress starts coming back. For whatever reason, Draculaura's like, okay, socially awkward Frankie,
Right.
you go try to make small talk with the headmistress and deal with that, and I'll just keep standing guard here.
Which, I mean, that's kind of rude, but okay. I mean, apparently Frankie's really great at it.
Frankie has so many facts about the invention of toilets, and they're just going to share them all with the headmistress.
That neurodivergent power of these are my hyperfixations.
Exactly. So, and the headmistress is clearly annoyed, but like doesn't know how to get away. So, you know, Frankie just keeps going. But then Cleo shows up and is like, hey, headmistress, I've got the notes from the student council meeting. And she's like, just go leave them on my desk. That's fine. I'm talking to Frankie right now. I guess I'm going to keep doing that, unfortunately. But so then, you know, thankfully there's Draculaura as a second line of defense. She has to try to slow Cleo down.
Yeah, but Cleo ain't going to be slowed down so easily.
At the last second, as Cleo's about to walk through the door, Draculaura does another little spell and makes Claudine look like the headmistress.
Right. Well, it has her powers apparently too at this point, because you see Claudine's head fall off. Then she pulls it back underneath the desk and pops out as the headmistress.
Yeah, and Cleo's like, wait, but I thought I just saw you in the hallway. How are you? And she's like, well, you know, I drink this caffeinated scorpion venom, I think is what it is.
Yep.
Some monstrous thing. And, you know, I'm just super fast.
And she drinks it like, that's terrible.
Yeah. You know, it ends up Claudine manages to get the bone out and leaves.
Well, also,
and, you know,
before as Cleo's leaving, she's like, hey, be nicer. Just be nicer to everybody.
Yeah, which I thought that was a really good bit.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, I'm watching you. Like, this mean girl thing, it's not sustainable. You need to start being kind, which is it's pretty cool. And Draculaura's like, you think that's gonna work? And she's like, well, it can't hurt. You know, it's worth a shot.
True.
Then there's like a little bit where they kind of bump into the headmistress in the hall, and she asks about the speech, and Claudine's like, yep, I'm totally ready. You got the speech. I'm good to go.
Yeah, even though I haven't worked on it one bit. Yep.
Right. And then we're in class, and they're talking about like the history of dragons.
Yeah, they had a treaty with the dragons in 1375. Like, what time scale are they using? Like, is it Anno Domini, or are we? I mean, obviously, Common Era is basically the same thing. So, but like, what year is this in Monster World?
Yeah, like 1375. Like in human years, there were dragons around, and we didn't catch them.
Right. I feel like there was a missed opportunity in that case.
But while this is all, the trio is just kind of like hush. You know, they're kind of talking about the spell,
and they're having a terrible time finding mayonnaise. Of all things.
Yeah, they've got all the weird monster stuff, but the last ingredient is mayonnaise, and Frankie's like, I am on it. I will find some mayonnaise.
All you need is some oil and eggs. You are good.
Yeah. So then class is dismissed. Everybody heads out. Frankie's like, high five, Professor Komos.
Yep.
And he's just like, sure. He does it back.
I mean, you know, if you got a special thing with a student like that, you know, why not?
Yeah. That's cute.
Yeah.
But he does stop Claudine and is like, hey, you were supposed to turn in your outline for the report, and I didn't get that. And Claudine's like, yeah, I'm on it. Like, I'm sorry, I got kind of in the weeds, I distracted, but I will get that to you right away. And he's like, I gotta have it tomorrow. Yep. She's like, all right, I'm on top of it. I'll do it.
Okay. All right. Well, then we find out that apparently vampires specifically communicate using portraits.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, it's kind of like I guess this is kind of Harry Potter, too, with, like, the animated portraits. But it kind of reminded me of, like, Dorian Gray. Yeah. You know, just having, like, this animated portrait. But, yeah, like, so it's Draculaura just sitting in front of a painting of her dad who is, like, berating her that she only got a 92 on her test.
Horrible father. You did well, but I want you to do perfect. Like, that'll have any effect on anything.
Yeah, so she's obviously doesn't feel great about that conversation. And, you know, she hangs up with her dad and, you know, is talking to Claudine and is like, I really want to tell him about witchcraft. Like, that's what my passion is, but I know he's not going to take it well. Right. And, you know, Claudine is like, yeah, I get it. You know, I'm scared of losing everything, too. Like, you know, we're both in very precarious situations, but you know, I gotta find the cure. Once I find that, then my problems are solved. But you know, I think you're gonna have to tell your dad eventually.
Exactly. But the good news is Frankie has found some mayonnaise.
Yeah, it's so like they're having this very serious conversation, and it's like it's so good to have a friend to share these moments with. So like even if we can't talk to everybody else, we've got each other. Yeah, and then Frankie just like bursts through the door like. holding this aloft, this jar of mayonnaise, like it's...
Looks like an old jar of mayonnaise, to be honest.
They're like, I have found mayonnaise!
Yep.
Good job, Frankie.
We love
Good
Frankie.
job. Then they're like, okay, so then we're down to literally the last thing we need is snake venom. And Frankie's like, oh, that's going to be tough. There's only one species of snake on campus with venom, and they're huge. They live in the swamp.
Yeah, it's a swamp
they tend to bite people's heads off. So, but Frankie's like, I could get another head, so I could try. If they bite my head off, it'll be fine.
They're the best. It's like, I could lose a body part and replace it. It's fine.
Yeah, like, and clearly, doing anything they can to help their friends. Like, it's like, I have this skill that nobody else has. I'll do it.
Well, Claudine has a better idea.
Yeah, and we pretty much cut to Claudine talking to Deuce and is like, hey, you mentioned wanting to talk about the speech. You want to help maybe do that? Let's go for a walk. And Deuce is like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, they go up to this, like, stream, like, park area.
Yeah, it's this really beautiful area. There's, like, a bridge. He's like, I go here to clear my head because nobody else comes here because the cell service is terrible.
Right, which, that's like a comment about them young kids.
Yeah, it's go outside and touch grass. And,
gosh.
at least, they are appreciating the moment and everything. But again, he's kind of talking about, like, he's dealing with all this, like, stigma about Gorgons. People don't trust us.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be like his family, which, that's weird, man. But okay, I mean, I get it. If you've come from a rough background, maybe. But you seem pretty nice for that.
So he breaks into his song, which is all about how, nobody trusts him, but he trusts Claudine, and he feels like she trusts him.
While Claudine's trying to milk his snake. That's not a euphemism, by the way. She's actually trying to grab his snake and milk it while his back is turned to her.
Yeah, there's like one snake peeking out of his beanie, and she's like trying to be stealthy about it, and like it feels kind of bad because he's talking about like this trust that he's trying to build with her. And, she's like, I've never really seen you without your glasses. Can you take off your glasses? And he's like, yeah, but I have to close my eyes or you'll turn to stone. And she's like, that's fine. So then, like, he's got his eyes closed and is singing to her about how much he trusts her and is in this very vulnerable moment. Like, he can't see her. And, if he were to accidentally blink or whatever, he could hurt her. So, like, he's really got all of his guard down in front of her. And meanwhile, she's trying to, like, steal from him, basically. Or, like... And not only steal from him, but, like, touch his body in a way that he's not consented to.
Right.
But as the song goes, I think she realizes that this is not okay. So she stops. And, like, as the song ends, like, the last verse is her singing to him about how she wants to trust him and him trust her and everything. So then the song ends, and she's like, okay, I'm really enjoying this time we're spending, but I have to confess something. So I did want to spend time with you, and I did want help with the speech, but there's another favor I need from you.
I need your snake venom.
And he's like, oh, sure, fine, that's totally cool.
All you had to do was ask.
Yeah, and he's like, just don't look him in the eye. They get kind of cranky, but yeah, and so he pulls off his beanie and he's like, be cool, guys, she's a friend.
Right, but watch out for Mo. He doesn't say Mo's kind of a dick, but he implies that, Mo will bite you if you look him right in the eyes.
But yeah, so I thought that was, I think Claudine was kind of like, and she's new to the monster world, so her interactions with people have been very limited by basically just being her and her dad for a while. So
yeah, and how do you politely ask someone, let me milk your snake for its venom?
Right.
Oh, also, somewhere in there, she convinces him to run for student council.
Oh, yeah, like just kind of casually, it's like, that would be a good way for you to kind of like get out of your shell and show people that you care about the school and that you want to be, a contributing member of society and not a troublemaker.
Right, which also kind of a weird thing, but okay, we'll let that slide.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be a contributing member of society to have any value. Okay.
Right. Yeah. But so then we just cut to like later on, they head back to the crypt, our trio. Draculaura does the whole open door spell and nothing happens.
Oh no, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
so,
Draculaura's kind of she's like, I failed as a witch. Like, she's kind of bummed out.
I mean, that was your first like real spell other than giving someone a zit.
Yeah. So they head back to school, and when they walk into the big, grand hall area, there is the headmistress and Komos and Cleo.
Cleo spilled the beans. She was tracking them.
Yeah, so not only were they out after curfew, that was bad enough, but Headmistress is like, there's something even worse going on here that we cannot accept. And, Claudine's like, oh, shit, I'm busted. But no, it's the witchcraft.
Yep, can't have that.
Yeah, so Draculaura's in trouble because Cleo's like, I knew when I got a pimple that it had to be witchcraft.
Now, she says she followed Hecate, But I'm like, does she mean Hecate, the Greek witch goddess? Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, because I know that during that time period there was like the Cleopatra, Mark Antony overlap thing. I don't know if maybe like Egyptian, maybe some of those gods that have different names in different cultures.
Yeah.
Maybe Hecate is the Egyptian equivalent.
Maybe.
But yeah, either way, she's like, I know witchcraft when I see it.
I used to be a practicer before I became a monster, which, that's sketchy, but okay.
Yeah. So, obviously Draculaura's in trouble, and they're like, we're going to tell your dad. She's like, you can't tell my dad. I'll be in so much trouble.
Right, but then we get it looks like a gargoyle, like, shakes loose and falls down, and it's about to hit Cleo, but she's saved by Claudine.
Yeah, and she's like surprised, like, I can't believe you saved me. Like, I've been shitty to you from day one. Like, seems kind of genuinely touched by that. Yeah. So the headmistress is like, everybody back to your rooms. The school is angry. There's a human amongst us. That's what's going on.
There's an untrue human heart.
Yeah. So then Komos is like, but the founder's dinner's tomorrow. Should we put it on hold? And the headmistress is like, no, it's very important. We got to do that. We'll just have to keep an eye on things in the meantime.
Yeah, Komos is like, all right, I'm on it. I'll hunt down the human.
Yeah. So then we get the trio back in their room, and Claudine is kind of apologizing. This is all her fault. Draculaura wouldn't have been in this situation without her. And she's kind of pissed. Like, you can tell she is a little bit holding Claudine responsible for this. Mm-hmm. But I think it's one of those kind of things where it's like, she knows she's in trouble and that her situation is fucked up now. Yeah. And I think she probably, as we'll see, is not going to hold a grudge for long about this. But at the moment, she's just kind of mad.
Yeah. To a degree, I mean, it was because Claudine that she was using magic, but also she was using magic beforehand, so it was really only a matter of time.
But I think Claudine kind of takes that to heart that, that it is her fault. So when Frankie and Draculaura go to sleep, Claudine sneaks away and goes home.
Yeah, because obviously she doesn't want the school being mad at her either.
Yeah, and so, at the beginning, as she was coming to school, she sang this song about, like, stepping out of the dark, and now we get kind of a reprise where she says, like, that she's going back into the dark. So it's heartbreaking. Like, she felt like she found this world that was the right fit for her, and then it's being taken from her. But then we see, like, the next day she's like at the park sitting on bleachers, and Frankie and Draculaura show up. They've tracked her down
with the Find My Fiends app.
Claudine is like, I can't do it.
I'm not monster enough, right?
Yeah, and she's kind of mad. She's like, just go back to school. You all fit in there. It's not for me. I'm gonna stay here. She gets up to leave and trips and falls in the mud. And when she stands up, she sees
her human hand.
And it suddenly everything clicks. Like, oh, that looks just like the handprint on the door of the crypt.
Ah, we figured it out. It was human hands all along.
Yeah. So they're like, okay. So they all head back to the crypt, basically. That changes everything. Claudine's like, okay, maybe I can be a real monster. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, she gets to the crypt, puts her hand on the handprint, door opens up.
Yeah, just after one trip, she finally figured out how to control her like changes from monster to human.
And so, they go inside and they're like, this isn't a lab, though. This is just an ogre's tomb.
Yeah, Admon the Terrible, I believe is what they called him.
Yeah, and then Frankie's like, hey, wait, there's a code written.
There's something under this monocle. It's a code on the eye.
Yeah, so like the crypt that the ogre's in is kind of like one of those sort of like sarcophagus style ones that has like the, his body like sculpted into it. But yeah, it's wearing a monocle. And under the monocle is an eye, like a real eyeball, but that has code written on it that just says push.
Right. So Claudine's like, okay, that's a button. And I believe is it Frankie or Draculaura that's like, no, that's an eyeball.
Yeah, it's Frankie because, and it goes back and forth. Like, it's a button. It's an eye. It's a button. It's an eye. And Frankie's like, okay, fine. And
Claudine pushes
the eye.
And it's an eye.
Or it's Frankie that pokes it because they're like, oh, gross, That is an eye, but it's also a button. So, they head through the door, and there's the lab. Right away, Frankie is like, oh, yeah.
Chemicals, baby.
This is my jam right here. They're like, have I died and gone to mad scientist monster heaven? Mm-hmm. They're looking through all the chemicals. Can I maybe make a little explosion, please? Like, there's so much good stuff in here. Claudine finds this, like, one chemical in a little beaker on a perfect pedestal, and it's like, this must be the cure. I'm free.
Well, it turns out someone else is in the tomb with them. It's Komos. He's found him. He's found the human.
Yeah, so this Claudine is holding the potion, and really thinking about drinking it. And then we get like these sort of like quick flash cuts of like her dad and all of these like special moments they've had. And like it almost seems like she's not going to take the potion like she's like, if I drink this, I'm erasing my dad. Like I'm getting rid of half of me, and I'm telling him that he doesn't matter, that like what he's given me is not important to me, and that's not right.
Exactly.
So she's already pretty much refused, but then Komos pops in and is like, I thought it was you, and I had a feeling you were going to get here, but you don't want to take that potion. Like, just trust me, there's a better way. Like, this isn't the right step. And Claudine's like, oh, you're right. Like, I've already arrived at that decision, but yes, I'm glad to hear you confirm that. And he's like, here, give me the potion. So she hands it to him.
And he just slugs it down.
Yeah. So this we get our heel turn twist. It turns out that...
Dun dun. Plot twist.
Yeah, he was not only also half human, but he is a villainous half human.
Well, not only that, but he's Hyde! No, I mean, he's Hyde Jr., because his dad was the original Hyde.
Yeah.
That's a lot of reveals right there.
Yeah. And it kind of keeps going. So they're like, oh, so you just want to turn pure monster so that you can keep teaching at the school? And he's like, no, I want to destroy the school.
Right. And then when I'm done with that,
the school's responsible for my dad dying. So like, I came here to bring this place down.
Yeah. And then once I do that, I'm going to go find the humans that killed my dad and kill them back.
Yeah. And so not only is he now purely monster, he is
ultimate monster. Yeah, basically he's like a minotaur or maybe demon.
Yeah, his horns grow a lot bigger, and then but he does kind of get like,
he gets buff.
Yeah, all muscly, and I think his legs do get all like furry. So like minotaur or fawn or something in that sort of like pan kind of area. And so right away he like uses his new ultimate monster powers to like suck the powers away from Draculaura.
Right.
And she just kind of collapses weakly, like her vampireness has been taken from her.
Yeah, she was trying to turn into a bat to kind of escape, right? And then he just like absorbed her bat powers.
Yeah, and so then he turns into a bat.
And locks them into that tomb, right?
Yeah, well, so he's going to, and then Frankie causes an explosion, like a chemical explosion.
Frankie got their explosion finally.
Yeah, and so the trio rushes out. And they lock the lab, put a bar on the door, and he's like banging on the door to get out. But then they find out that when he came in, he locked the crypt behind him. So now
he's sneaky.
They're also locked. Yeah.
How do we get out from this mess? Well, it turns out that Claudine says, Frankie, go live!
Yeah, Claudine's like, because at first Claudine's like, Frankie, get out your phone, call somebody. And Frankie's like, I've never used my phone as a phone before. Right. And I don't have anybody's numbers, and
got Cleo's.
Claudine's like, well, you got Cleo on your social media, so go live. And so that's what they do, and they ask Cleo for help, and Cleo's listening. And I guess between like the be nice and the saving her from the gargoyle and everything, Cleo is like actually ready to help.
Well, it turns out that Draculaura, she may have lost her vampire powers, but she still has her witch powers.
Yeah, so she has a little bit left of that door opening spell, so she's able to use that to get them out.
Right.
Meanwhile, we're seeing like the founders' dinner has started, and everybody's like waiting, like what is going on? Where's Claudine?
Well, Dracula's like, this is disrespectful. Come on. You leave me here hanging.
Yeah, and then the headmistress is like, hey, Deuce, have you heard anything from her? And he pulls out his phone, and he doesn't have any calls from Claudine.
He has a ton from Cleo.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't have time for Cleo's nonsense. But then his phone rings again, and it's Cleo. So he goes ahead and answers, and he's like, what's going on? I don't have time for this. Then, is like, oh, okay. I don't think we hear Cleo's side. It's just like him. And he's like, okay, got it. Okay, I'll be right there. Then we just get like, everybody kind of converges in the cemetery. So we've got Deuce and Cleo and Laguna plus...
Heath, I think...
Yeah, I think he's there. Maybe Gulia as well.
Yeah, Abby, Gulia. Yeah. Basically all the kid characters that have been introduced.
Yeah, and the trio, they come out of the crypt. They're there, but Komos pops out as well. So they're kind of all in this sort of big final confrontation.
By the way, if you're wanting to know why Komos is called Komos, that's his mom's name.
Oh, yeah, it's his maiden name.
Yeah, his mom's maiden name.
Yeah, her maiden name. Deuce takes off his glasses. He's like, I know how to stop this guy.
Well, turns out that Hyde Jr. / Komos knows a trick called reverse Uno because he just steals Deuce's powers and uses them against him.
Yeah, so then Deuce turns to stone and falls down. And I think, seeing this guy that she cares about seem to die, Claudine gets scared and turns human again. And Como starts kind of doing his villain monologue stuff. He's going on, and Cleo hands Claudine her cell phone and is like, for Deuce, do this for Deuce. Right. So Claudine approaches, and Como's tries to steal her powers.
But she's human.
Yeah, she's human. She has no powers. So he's like, he can't really do anything to her. So he's like, well, I can't take your powers, but I can still turn you to stone.
Well, it turns out that Claudine knows reverse Uno.
So she uses the selfie cam on the phone.
The logistics of this are amazing.
Yeah, it's such a great update of the mirrored shield from the actual myth. Yeah. But yep, so Como sees himself in the selfie cam, turns himself to stone.
I do like how he's like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah. And then, of course, as soon as he turns to stone, Draculaura's powers go back to her. Deuce turns back not into stone and also gets his powers back.
By the way, can we talk about how hilarious that is that Komos got turned to stone because his uncle also became stone from a Gorgon and was put in a garden?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yep.
So everybody, everything is sort of the day has been saved.
Except for the adults have figured out that the kids are there and Claudine is a human or half human.
Yeah. I think at first it's I think you get a brief moment where Deuce wakes up and sees Claudine and he's just like, hey,
right.
He's just totally cool, which is awesome. Yeah. But then, there's the teachers see and or the alumni and the headmistress and everything. It pretty much just cuts. They see Claudine and it's okay, we know that they know she's human. And then it's the next day, Claudine's dad is waiting on the steps, and Claudine's like, I just got to say bye to my friends and we can go.
Because it's basically, she's being, in her mind at least, she's being expelled for being half human.
Yeah. So she goes inside and is saying bye to Frankie and Draculaura and everything. And the headmistress bursts in and is like, stop! Claudine's like, at least let me say goodbye to my friends.
Nope, because you're not going nowhere.
Yeah. So the headmistress is like, you might not be a pure monster, but our charter says we want people of pure monster heart. Right. And I've never seen anybody as pure monster heart as
Well, the one who had the impure heart was Komos. He was the guy who the school was pissed off at.
Yeah, so basically they're just like, we've been misinterpreting this rule all these years, and you've shown us the error of our ways, and we're happy to keep you as long as you still want to be here. And, obviously Claudine's like, yeah, of course. The headmistress is like, your mother would be very proud. And then she gives this big declaration that, the school wants to officially welcome our first official half human student. And, all the kids clap, and, Cleo and Laguna, howl like wolves to, in support. It's very sweet. And then, Claudine sings another song about she's got this new confidence. Now she can be herself. Going to the school was this way that she could be out as a monster and feel comfortable, but she was still having to hide part of herself. And now she can really be the true Claudine, the half human, half werewolf version of herself. Yeah.
And of course she wants to take her dad on tour to tour the school just to show him around and, get to have that father-daughter bonding experience.
Yeah, it's super sweet. Then this is very much an echo of the first scene where Claudine tells her story through song, and then we get little cutaway scenes of some of the other characters who then sing verses.
Right. Well, we got Draculaura, and Dracula is like, listen, vampires have been at war with witches forever. So if you're going to do witchcraft, you're going to be the best witch there's ever been.
Yeah. So he gives her a book of shadows or whatever, and she's all excited. And then we get Frankie and Draculaura kind of sing together about not just fitting in, but being unique. So, they're sort of learning from what Claudine learned, Deuce talks about that he's running for student council. So apparently that suggestion stuck with him.
Okay. And then, of course, we also get Draculaura just running outside and sniffing a potion from a bottle. Once again, drugs reference if it really seems like that, because then she starts floating.
And there's it's Draculaura floating, and she holds hands with Frankie and Claudine, and they float up. And Frankie's like, I finally realized that I already have two great friends, and whether I make any more, I appreciate you all. So it's a very sweet ending.
Well,
that is then like undercut in like this little sequel teaser moment.
Yeah, because we get a crystal ball, and wait a second, we still have that image of Dracula, Frankie, and Claudine, but we get some gnarly claw hands.
Yeah, some very witchy hands, obviously looking through a crystal ball, and you get this voice saying like, we have found her. She's the key to bringing an end to the vampires. Bring her to me.
Basically, she's the key in the Vampire Witch War, and that may be what the follow-up is.
So then we cut, we go to credits, and this, we talked a couple weeks ago about how the Munsters movie had like a lot of great credit stuff, so that it made it worthwhile to like sit through them, and this one does the same thing.
You get to see everybody get put into their makeup.
Yeah, there's like a lot of dance scenes. It's kind of bloopers a little bit, just them having fun on set, and then there's like time lapse of everybody getting into their makeup. Yeah, you just also get just a lot of like effect shots, and you get like split screen where you see them like in front of green screens, and then what the final product looks like and everything. Right. So yeah, you just get a lot of cool stuff. And then I don't know if you stayed all the way through the end, but at the very, very end of the credits, there's just like in big rainbow letters across the screen, it just says, "Be yourself, be unique, be a monster."
Yep. I mean, what could be better than that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was the message of the movie. Like, they didn't need to really spell it out, but it's really nice that they're just like, that's why we made this movie, is we want everyone to feel comfortable in their own skin, whatever that means. Yeah. And I mean, there's never a time when that's not a positive message, but it feels like right now there's just, with the world being the way it is, like kids, teens, they need this. So I'm really glad that this movie did this with, they have their budget to promote these toys, and they
actually put a message,
something special.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, if you're under the age 16 and under, I think this movie is going to hit pretty hard for you. But I mean, the fact that there's representation across the board. I mean, a lot of it stems with Frankie. They as we mentioned, are kind of representing both the non-binary and the neurodivergent. But we've also got the other allegories of gayness. Just be yourself and accept yourself, and hopefully society will get with the program.
Yeah. You've got Claudine, who is not only like, she's kind of mixed race in terms of human monster, but like, she's also a person of color, and you have other characters of color in the background as well. Like, it's just diverse in all the ways that it's encouraging that diversity in a really, really great inclusive way.
And by the way, this movie is also probably the queerest movie we've had, just because of like all the bright colors, the singing, the dancing, and once again the representation. So you know what? Thumbs up. Yeah,
absolutely. So this is the only movie that we've watched for this show that I literally watched again the same day that I watched it. Because I usually get up early on the weekends and watch it by myself when the house is quiet and I can pause a bunch and take notes and stuff. Sure. But like then a little later, when Kendall, my partner, got up, I was like, "You
gotta watch this.
You have to watch this movie with me. It's so good." Yeah. She was like, "Monster High," and I was like, "For real, I swear." Like, yeah. And yeah, she enjoyed it too. It's a really great movie.
I could definitely see this being a movie that if you're like, watch this, people will look at you like you have, two heads. But it's a pretty good movie, especially one based on dolls.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so pleasantly surprised at this movie.
It's definitely better than Masters of the Universe from like the 1980s. And all of the G.I. Joe movies. Holy crap.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's better than the original 1980s Transformers, but that's pushing it.
Yeah, that one's pretty much a classic. And the Ninja Turtles live action ones were pretty decent. Yeah. I would say it's better than the recent Transformers movies.
No doubt. But this actually has a message, so yeah. Fair enough. So we're saying watch it. Just give it a watch. You may feel a little creepy at the beginning, but you'll be okay with it.
Yeah. It's a fun surprise. Like, that's kind of part of what's fun about this show is like, I'm going to be watching a lot of movies I've seen before, but I'm also going to try some stuff that I might not have tried otherwise. Yeah. And sometimes that works out to find a really great movie. Sometimes you find something terrible that's just fun to talk about.
Yeah, sometimes you just find a Spanish Herbert West Reanimator.
Yeah. But yeah, this one, definitely a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony, where can they find us?
So you can find us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Frankencast. You can find us on YouTube. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com, and you can find us at patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Yeah. And of course, if you don't have the money, just interact with us. That makes us happy. Obviously you're not required to. Just enjoy yourself, enjoy the show, and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's mashing season, Anthony.
Yeah, when the fall leaves come around and Halloween comes up, as we did last year, you want to talk about the Monster Mash.
We're going to do the Monster Mash from 1995.
So there are two movies called Monster Mash. They're both like
5 years apart.
Loosely sort of based on / inspired by the song. So we'll be watching the 1995 version next week, and then the week after we'll be watching the 2000 version.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, in that case, to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.